Thank you, Father, for the day. Thank you, incredible audience, for listening, for sharing, for your questions, for your input, just for being incredible humans that believe in one conversation at a time. And I'm going to just jump in and say, thank you, Brian Sebastian. Brian's kind of famous, y'all. And I could probably remove the word kind of. And we were just talking about, and we decided, I said, let's just do this. Brian, he walks the talk. Everyone matters. He shares stories. He shares accomplishments. Let me read a little bit to you about him, and I have to read it because it's a lot. All right. Founder, creator, host, producer of movie reviews and more. He's on Talk for Media, iHeartRadio, K4HD Radio, and let's just say 45 million views. That's right. You heard it right. Millions on. And Brian, remind me, it's iTube247.com. It's a very cool platform. And he's also, before I let him say anything, he's number 4 on the Hollywood Elites magazine's list of best TV, radio shows, and podcasts. And that really just scratches the surface. Welcome, and talk to us about this wonderful, is it iTube247.com?
Yeah, well, things have changed. So we're almost at 45 million views just on that out of Franklin, Tennessee, and around the world, and not on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is only 2.3. I'm
Oh,
hoping that I can get to 3 million. It's always consistent. Like the last 28 days, we were at 26,000, 26, was it? Yeah, 26,000 views in 28 days. The
wow.
most we ever got in a 28-day period was 88. And I was like, can I get to 89? And it was tough. That was 14 days we did that. And that was
Wow.
like tough. You constantly putting up content and things like that. I was like, how do people do this? And nothing's gone viral the way people think a viral video would
Right.
go. It's not like that. It was like something that was just it just kept growing and it just kept growing. But people found it a different way. Because in my mind, something when something goes viral, it's like instantly. That's not how it
Yeah.
went. In 14 days, it did this. And I'll take that steady growth, solid growth any day. That's what
Well,
that was.
14 days. That's not a very long period.
No, it's not. But it was near the end of the month when it hit, and it was one of those days that can I get it in before that 28-day period before it stops, before
Right.
they go into another month,
Right.
and I got up to that top, and I was like, "Ooh!" And but what it was, the video was, it was John Bon Jovi, Music Cares Person of the Year, and so everybody from like a Jelly Roll to like Ellie Langley would come in and sing a John Bon Jovi song during Oscar week. And I thought that was
Ah,
great. And that's what it was. And all I did was just take a clip from the inside of the show and I put it up in the shorts. And then if anybody goes to our shorts, they kick butt. I'm very
oh,
proud of that because of people's attention spans these days.
oh my goodness. Okay. So, first of all, I'm so excited you're here. We've talked about this, and the few times we've been able to be together in person, I just, I love your energy, your kindness, your professionalism, and all that you share with those that you interview. And you do a lot of your movie reviews, even if they don't get number 1 in your book, you give them positive feedback. It's pretty cool. Would you please share with the audience, Brian, what in the world you do, how you came upon this story in your life and your day to day, because it's quite unique and fabulous.
See, I don't think it's unique, and I don't think it's fabulous. But and also, I'm not famous. I just happen to interview famous people or people who you might see coming up, sort of like a casting director. Think of Brad Pitt when he was in Thelma and Louise. For those people who saw that, Susan Sarandon and Gina Davis, and I hope to see. Yeah, I am going to see Gina in about 3 weeks. I'm going to see her at the Bentonville, Arkansas Film Festival. there, which
Okay.
she runs, and I haven't seen her in a couple of years. It's one of those things where they took a chance on Brad Pitt. Look where Brad Pitt is now.
Right.
They took a chance on him and put him in near the end of the movie of Thelma and Louise, and then people just like, oh, who's this guy? Who's this good-looking guy on the women's side of things? That's what happens. I like to do things like that. I never say no to an interview because you just never know. But those people who you gave a chance to, always remember that you took a chance on them and interviewing them first. And I always wanted to be that guy. And I think that's a lot of that.
And you are that guy. So I guess I'm going to say famously respected. How about that? By very many famous people. How about that? Well,
I'll take that. But
there you go.
the thing about that is it's more of you got to give the voice to the voiceless, right? And everybody can have a podcast. Most people at one point wanted to be in radio or television. I never wanted to be on camera. I always wanted to be behind the scenes because going back, I'm an old traditional radio guy. Going back in the day when you were in radio or you were a disc jockey, you were behind turntables. You were up high in a club when they used to have nightclubs, going discos or whatever. I was
Oh,
always behind in the microphones on radio. They would always say, "You have a face for a radio." Well, that would be us. We never wanted to be out there. It was Howard Stern and a few other people, Cousin Brucey. Those guys went out there doing that. Ed Sullivan, if people remember that, he came from radio, and then
oh,
he got thrown on there. And who knew? Almost 30 years later, he had the Ed Sullivan show, which those shows will never be topped.
I love the Ed Sullivan show. I think it's when I first saw the Beatles, for example. So tell us, Brian. So you were hosting a radio show, loving it. When did you come face forward? When did you move in to that you were a face to face? You started interviewing on runways, at film festivals, all these places. When did that transaction take place?
I would say once I got to California, coming from Connecticut in 1987.
Mhm.
The goal was there was a news radio station called Power 106 in Los Angeles. I came from the 36 market. So in radio, for those people that don't know, you move up market size. So New York's one, California's two, Chicago's three, Houston is four, Pennsylvania is five, or I should say Philly is five, things like that. So you want to be in those markets because that's how you make the most money. I never wanted to go to New York. At one point, I thought about going to Arkansas because that would have been a way for me to get on to move into that. I didn't know when I moved to California I was going to um, fall backwards into the number two market. I thought I was going to go up to Northern California to be close to my favorite drum corps, the Santa Clara Vanguard. I never made it up to Northern California. I ended up being in UCLA, where in Westwood, California, Westwood, Brentwood, California, where a lot of the stars lived. And it was interesting. And I was like, I got to get up to Northern California. Well, I guess God had another plan. I didn't make it up there. I stayed in Los Angeles, ended up on a station that I wanted to get on, doing promotions, driving a Power 106, uh, van, which was great. And at that point where I worked, I had three jobs. I worked at Power 106. I worked at Tower Video. And if for anybody who remembers Tower Video, people would come around the world to come to Tower Records. Right across the street, you had Tower Classics, and then you had Tower Video. Well, everybody would go buy albums and get sets and everything like that before CDs. And if you went across the street, you went to Tower Videos, where video stores was coming in 1987, the heydays. Every celebrity came in there. I remember signing up a guy named William Broad, who most people know him as Billy Idol. Gene
Oh,
Simmons would come in, Michael Jackson would come in, Prince would come in. Everybody went to Tower Video and Tower Records across the street. And it was great. And right next to that, the Viper Room, where Johnny Depp owned it. You could just walk out the door, walk right across the street, and that was the Viper Room. Across the street from there was the Whiskey A Go Go, the Rainbow, the Roxy, Gazares, all of those. So you learn a lot by being around on all these people. So it was the heyday of being in Southern California, where anything could happen.
that is very, very cool. I have to ask, do you have a lot of vinyl still?
Now, you know what I did? I ended
Yeah.
up getting rid of mine only because I had had it since 1977. And
Right.
then so by 1991, I was like, man, I don't want to keep dragging these records around. I remember how many I had in the duffel bag going to a wedding. I was doing disc jockeying stuff for that. I'm like, do I want to keep doing this? And the answer was no, because you do one thing for so many years. 77 to 91, I was doing that. I said, I don't want to keep doing this. I've done what I wanted to do. You want to go on to the next phase in your life, which for me was voiceovers. So in 1999, I sold them all to Amoeba Records. I sold all
Oh,
of that so other people could have those things. Guess what kids are buying going back to the last 7, 8 years now? Vinyl.
that's right. That's right. That's why I was wondering. But of course, there's a cool note I want to make here is you had done what you wanted to do in that phase. And I love that you sold them and someone else could pick that up and appreciate it from your experience. Very cool. A lot of times people they don't close those loops on this was a perfect chapter and I'm done with that and I'm moving to the next.
Well, you have to. You got to see, as we see now, seeing the trends come. So for me, it was the song, Madonna song, La Isla Bonita, if you remember that song.
Oh
I
yes.
hated that song because they used to play it all the time. You remember when the station they would just play a song all the time, once or
Yes.
twice an hour. It would just drive you nuts if you didn't like that
Yes.
song. That was the song that drove me nuts. On the flip side of that, there was a station coming in called The Wave, which was like the next Boulevard down in Los Angeles. Easy listening music. It was coming from San Francisco. Easy listening music. So I just remember they were paying $15 to $17 an hour. This is in 1991. A lot of money. And at the point, they weren't using voices. So I said, I could go over there. So here's the thing, you weren't supposed to be at two radio stations at once. I was. One didn't hear my voice. The other one was, sporadically they could hear my voice because I was doing promotion. And I thought that was great. So I learned promotion. So you start to pick up things, what's working in marketing in different ways on home video, out there, TV, you see TV ads, you see all the billboards. A lot of that stuff is gone and it doesn't work. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. They were just trying wanting to go to the next thing. So I learned a lot by watching things, what they weren't doing, and as you would say, leaving money on the table.
It's incredible, Brian. You never know what you're preparing for. However, a lot of people aren't thinking about that. It's really impressive that you realized, okay, I'm not just learning, I'm building upon all these experiences because all of this has, gotten you to where you are today. And it's quite, tell us something, tell the audience if they're wanting to go into radio, they're wanting to go into media, they want to interview follow a little bit in your footsteps. What should they focus on first? I'm going to ask that question first.
Well, your heart has to be in it. If your heart's not into anything, it's not going to work. That's the
Right.
first of all. Then you have to have faith. I've been practicing Buddhism for 30 plus, well, 35 years plus and going on. You know, I say prayers for others, the people who who have passed on. I do that, but it was always um, enlightenment for us. Always just pray for those others, cause and effect. Make all those good causes, you get the effects back in different ways. That's the second thing. And consistency. People can't be consistent. Most people have the attention span of a gnat, 2 seconds, which is really what the attention span is these days. It's not 10, it's not 7, it's not 5, it's really 2. Things have changed. More people, you can walk down the street and pick up a stick and hit 10 people who have ADHD and ADD. They just do.
I
That's half
really
of it.
no, it is the truth. I love that the consistency and perseverance. Wouldn't you say it's like, I'm not saying have consistency for 6 months. You're saying have consistency and perseverance. Give it some time, right?
Yes, there's an old saying, I say this, your success is right around the corner. It could be a long corner, but if
Yes.
you knew that you would be successful 1 year from today, would you still do it? Would you be
Uh-huh.
consistent? That's a test for people. You ask any kid, You ask any adult, would they still do it? If you knew there was $1 million waiting for you around the corner, a long corner, would you still do it? Could you still do it no matter what? Meaning holidays every day, going straight through the year. Tomorrow's show that you're on is 205 live shows in counting tomorrow. That's almost 3 years of a streak going on. How many people do you know around the world that have that? Nobody that I know of. I'm always
No.
asking people, show me someone who can be consistent, go straight through the year on live shows, because we're always live, never tape. That's half the battle.
Yeah, that, you know what? That's incredible. And I need to implement from your great example. And on the live portion, because I do those randomly rather than consistently. I'm more doing recordings. And I want to go back to you. First of all, what a great question, right, audience? If you knew, let's say it's in cash, there's $1 million around this long corner, and let's say that's going to take you a year, 2 years, let's say 3 years, would you still do? Would you keep on? Would you be consistent? Would you persevere? Which
I
takes,
say just a year, just in 1 year, would you still do it? It's a
okay,
fair and good challenge. Could you do it? Let's see.
very,
People say, yeah, I could do it. Everybody could say, yeah, you could do it, but can you do it on holidays? The reason I have, Carol, the reason I have a show on Tuesday at 5 p.m. West Coast time, 8 p.m. Eastern, because on Mondays, you could have a long holiday. What do we got coming up? We got Memorial Day coming up. That's on
that's
a
right.
holiday.
That's
When do most people take holidays? If you're lucky, on a Thursday. If you got money, you start on a Wednesday, and you might go from Wednesday to the following Wednesday. And then, so what does that leave you? Do you want to do your show on a weekend, on a Saturday, on a holiday weekend when it's 90 degrees out? No. So, but
no,
also the timing of things. I always want it to be international. When we do our show at 8 p.m., 5 p.m. West Coast time, 8 p.m. Eastern, it is 8 and or 9 o'clock the next day in China.
that's
We
right.
have people on our shows around the world in those time zones. That to me is important. That's why I chose the Tuesday. We never missed anything. Even when our shows fell on holidays 2 years ago, Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, we knocked it out the park.
Yeah, your willingness, and actually back to your very first question you told everyone to ask themselves, ask all of us, do you love what you're doing? Do you love it? Because the answer to the rest of the questions already is no if you don't love what you're doing. Agree?
Absolutely. It's just like if anybody's doing a movie, you ask those directors, those casting people, the average documentary takes 7 years to do. You got to love that project. What if you get into it and you're like, oh, this is going to be grueling? When we finish this? Because you got to get music rights, you got to get the participants, especially if they're live, or you got to talk to the estate. That's a lot of things you have to go through. Just that. Never mind, do the score. You might have to travel around the world. All of that takes time, and you don't always have the money to do this. So that's just a documentary. If you're going to work on a film, unless you're Steven Spielberg and you can get it done in a year and a half, Lincoln, that's a process. It doesn't work like that. So I learned these things from interviewing all of these people, how they did things. Can you make it better? For me, that non-actor, you never catch me in a film. I'm not interested in doing that. You couldn't pay me to do that. And if you did pay me, you're gonna have to pay me a lot of money because I'm not interested in doing that. I don't want to waste my time on a set. I could read a book, or I would rather watch a bad movie than to be on a movie set. But that's me. Other people will
Right.
love the process. I don't. I've been
That,
there. I've done it. It doesn't interest me. Still doesn't interest me.
it's quite interesting. I'm gonna I have so many things I could talk to Brian about, y'all. I'm going to jump around a tiny bit. Thank you for keeping up. I want to go to all of these interviews that you have done and all these people, to quote you, famous people all over, everywhere. Would you please share with the audience, true or not true? I believe it to be true, that all of these people that are famous, we're going to use the word famous because, they're probably, I don't know, some of them hate when people run up to them and say, oh gosh, so happy to meet you. Just want to say you're great at what you do. to those that appreciate it, isn't everybody just like everyone else? This just happens to be what they do.
Yes, that is the case. But I always say this: they have a little bit more money. I learned this from Denzel Washington. He got on the elevator at one point, and this woman immediately started clutching her purse. She didn't know who he was. And then right before he got off the elevator, he turned back to her and says, I'm sorry. I think I have just a little bit more money than you do. And he left and the doors closed. Great scenario on things like that, because there's a lot of people that don't know who you are. And
That's
so you have to always treat people with respect, whether they give you the respect back. Respect is
that
always earned.
that's right. And one of your words, the audience knows that I love to ask the people that we speak to what your word is for the year. And y'all, no surprise, Brian's word is kindness for this year. And I think that to what you're saying, showing respect, it's also kindness. You know, we should always assume the best, not the worst, because that's the energy that we are going to give off in every scenario, correct?
Absolutely. My southern mom, I would say, Edie Mae Han, she lives in Alabama. She's part of the Elvis Presley brand. I found a movie. A lot of the things that I found came from movies and that connected in different ways for me. It didn't matter if it was in the tech world or the hotels or anything like that. Everything came from me was the movies. And I've always said this: no one is going to outwatch me movie wise. And I'm not going to let you out interview me with everybody. If you think of Barbara Walters was successful in her career because she had men that didn't think that she belonged there, that didn't want her there. But she went around the world to get, think of this, Mahan Bacon. She got these interviews where Walter Cronkite and Harry Reisner didn't get them. She beat them to the game. You learn by doing these things. You go and get the get, as they would call it. You got to get it. If you don't get it, someone else is going to beat you to it. So I've always said this: you might beat me to an interview, maybe only because you may have the bigger outlet, but in the long run, consistency wins. So I've always been the turtle: slow, steady. I'm going to get there, even though I'm faster, and I think faster than a lot of people. You're just not going to beat me because I'm focused in on what I'm going to accomplish. If that makes sense.
Of course it does, because focus is everything. We are going to manifest whether we go the woo woo route or the regular conversation, without woo woo. If you are working on something every day, like you said, consistently, no matter what the day is, you are creating something in that focused, whatever that is. And you are going to beat, if you will, get there first, if you will. If the minute someone else takes a day off, you're still moving forward.
Absolutely. That's the whole thing. Because when it's 90 degrees out, I was always in a movie theater or doing interviews at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills, because that was our basically home base. Because the studios were most comfortable there. They had security there. You didn't always know the security was there. They were low key. You learned a lot. But everybody had walked through there at one point that we interviewed. We would do interviews during the day, during the week, on the weekend if we didn't do them in New York. If you were lucky enough for the studio to fly you, they would fly you, they would put you up. The studios might share, the per diem. One might fly you on the airline, one might put you up in the hotel, but you had to be in that list. I was the low man on the list, but I knew you couldn't outwatch me movie wise, and you weren't going to beat me by being consistent. And I was looking at the long game.
That's really interesting. And I know that
And I
the,
also wasn't in competition with anybody because I was a small guy. I couldn't be.
you were just doing what you loved and what you knew you were going to do it every day. You're going to be where you needed to be. You were willing to make the sacrifice, no matter what that was. Let me ask you, Brian. So when you started out, again, you were on your own, correct? When you started,
Yeah,
and
I didn't have any family. I've always said this, my friends are my family is my acquaintance. They were 3,000 miles away. They didn't know what I was doing.
right,
Nobody knew at this point. They would say, "Well, Brian, what do you do? It doesn't make sense. What are you describing us to us?" I'm like, "Have you ever seen Tom Cruise? You know who Tom Cruise is?" They go, "Yes." "Okay, you ever seen a movie poster next to him called Mission Impossible?" "Yes." That's what I do. I'm the person interviewing Tom Cruise on the other end. You might not see me, which is fine with me, but I got the interview. And then when I walk into that room, I got the tape to prove that I did it. That's what made sense to them. You do that? Yeah. How long you been doing it for? Well, I'm still doing it. It's
right.
just we do it a different way. Now everybody can interview everybody, right, Carol? It
Well,
wasn't that way before.
no, and you know what? I know that many others want to say thank you to you, but I'd like to say thank you for blazing the trail. Because as you and I know, we share the love of the conversation and the interview. And for me, like being here with you today, being able to say, okay, so Brian, you go out there and you know this is what you want to do. How in the world, when you have other people, big companies doing it, how did you get paid to do it?
Well, think about this first. You're wearing a Masters hat. Think of Tiger Woods. What was
Uh,
Tiger Woods focused on when he was 2 years old? He was on the Merv Griffin show. I worked for the Merv Griffin show. We didn't pay us anything, but it was still, I worked in news radio, the only one in Connecticut. I learned a lot from doing these things. So what happens when you do all these things? Tiger Woods, it was always about consistency. His goal was to beat Jack Nicholson, right? And he came close. But one of these things, he's still considered the most famous golfer out there. Ask any young person, do they know
yeah,
Jack
sure.
Nicholson or Tiger Woods? They know
Yeah,
Tiger Woods.
they
Why is
know who
that?
it is.
Because he was consistent of what he did, those most famous shots. So for me, being consistent. And when it comes to being paid, it's about sponsorship. It's no different from watching the NFL or watching the Grammys. You still have sponsors. It's about viewership, not followers, subscribers, or likes. That's not what it was when I was focusing on October 3rd of 2018. I beating Joe Rogan. It took me 6 years to beat him. I beat him by 35 million views 2 years ago, October 6th of 2024. How many people could say that in the world? Nobody. Because I was
Nobody.
focused on doing it no matter where I was cross country. No matter what, I was still doing my show every Tuesday, no matter where I am cross country. When I leave Monday on Memorial Day, my show is going to be on Tuesday the following day. I'll be in California. Right now, I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Every week I'm in a different place. How many people do that, Carol? And the answer is nobody.
Nobody. And I know the audience is hearing that. What you are, you know, hearing Brian say is this is a non-negotiable. What he focuses on and what he does is his way of life. And there's that. And in the meantime, but not Brian, not everyone can nurture at the same time. Do what you do. You travel constantly. It's so funny. We talked earlier today, a little pre-show, and I said, where are you today? Because you never know where Brian is going to be. And you still nurture all your relationships, like the ones with the people that had no idea what you were doing then or what you do now. They might not understand it, but you somehow you nurture these relationships that you have.
Well, that's the easy part. It's a simple strategy. You just have to be nice to people and you have to be patient and you still have to have consistency with this because not everybody gets what you're talking about. If when you started your podcast, people they automatically want to. I gotta get a sponsor for my podcast. That's not how it works. You have no viewership, you have no subscribers, and you're lucky if you have anybody following you, and people may not even like you. So you're
It's
starting five five rows behind of where you want to be already.
oh,
That's not how it works. You got to build it up to get something, anything in life, right?
and I'm going to say it again. I'm going to quote you: consistency.
Well, yeah, that's what it's about. You just have to be consistent. It's an easy thing to do, but it's about determination and having patience.
That's right.
People
You know,
just aren't patient.
I love this. One of the things that, and I'm going to read something to the audience if you're watching this. We had asked Brian what's a challenge that he had to overcome to get to where he is today. And listen to this: being patient and learning to deal with other people's problems while waiting for them to be able to get their stuff together in order to do what they needed to do. Not everybody will wait.
Well, that's the issue. For example, think about this. Michael Jordan. People know who Michael Jordan is. We just
Of
went over
course.
Tiger Woods and what happened with him and where he is. The best golfer there ever was. And
That's
he
right.
knew to be the best golfer, you had to beat people by a lot of strokes. You
Oh,
had to. Michael Jordan, if it weren't for his mom,
oh,
he would have never have signed with Nike. You know who was supposed to get that? Magic Johnson.
you
Magic
know what?
Johnson didn't know what Nike was. They offered him stock before Nike hit IPO. They weren't anything. They were in their first 5 months going into the year, because at that point people wore Converse or Adidas.
Right,
So at that
right.
point, he's wearing Converse. I don't know what Nike is. Michael Jordan, till this day, gets paid millions of dollars. He hasn't played basketball since 1996,
Mm,
possibly
mm.
1998. He still
And
gets paid millions of dollars from Nike. Almost everybody's wearing Nike. Tiger Woods wore Nike, Oh, by the way, who signed Tiger Woods? Nike before he turned professional. And guess what? All those people said, this kid, he can't handle pressure. He hasn't done anything. They said the same thing to Michael Jordan. Why are they paying him all this money? He hasn't done anything. Look where those two billionaires are now. Oh, and guess what Michael Jordan's doing now? He's winning NASCAR. He's a NASCAR owner. Oh, and look at Magic Johnson. He's the only one in the world that's got 19 rings as a player and as an owner. So do you not think I'm not paying attention to all of these things, Carol?
you know,
Think
really,
about that.
that is, first of all, I did not know that about the 19 rings.
Yes, he is an owner of the Lakers. He is an owner of a Major League Soccer team. He's a minority owner of the Washington Commanders. He's a minority owner of the Dodgers. He's the face of the Dodgers. Who won the World Series the last 2 years? The Dodgers. Who's out there at the game cheering them on? Magic Johnson.
Of course, of course. So, we have, and I know you are so in demand, and I want to make sure I honor your time. But
Am I?
I'd like, yes, it's true, but thank you for being humble. The thing about this is that you have so many upcoming events, and I'm going to scoot over to the notes that I'd made to myself. You've got film festivals, you've got, trips all over the United States. What's up? Well, actually, all over the world. What's coming up for you next so people can kind of be looking for you and, following you around, if you will? I know you've
Well,
got film
I'm going to
festivals.
let you know a couple things going on that a lot of people don't know. So
Yay.
you're all excited. See, I like see that. This is how you make people happy. You give them something that they can choose.
Oh,
So we have the military brand. We have all 5 branches of the military that we're going to be working with, and that show starts June 12th. So women in military, untapped market, military families, veterans, Vet Hub. We're doing that. So, and then with the Marriott, we have the Marriott brand, bringing that together. And then, I'm not a shopper. I'm not an online shopper. I just ordered something online for the first time last week. That's not me. I like to go into stores and look at people and shake their hands and see what's actually there, because small businesses have been hurt that way.
oh,
You women took off and started ordering everything online, and then that killed a lot of small businesses and malls. Remember the days when people would go to the movie theaters on the weekends and they'd go shopping? They
yes,
don't do that anymore. They just
yes.
don't. They stay home now. They order from line. Your groceries, everything will show up within the next 20 minutes to 3 hours from now, depending on how long you want them to take to bring them what you ordered.
I've been feeling very guilty about this for a different reason, but those reasons as well is I, long story short, there are a lot of boxes out in the back that we're breaking down to recycle or reuse. And I just felt I want to get back to number one in person because I'm crazy about people. You're crazy about people, but also our planet. Can I just throw out there our planet? And I feel like every time a box shows up, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not doing my part. I'm not doing a big enough part.
Hey, I'm a recycling person. I came from California. I worked on a ranch. You know, when people left their bottles and stuff every Monday, which was our workers' day off, I had to shovel, the stalls. I'm like, oh, this is what people said about hating Mondays. I got it at that point. I'm like, who gave workers off on a Monday? It's
Right.
something I wouldn't have given them off on a Monday. I would have given them off on a Wednesday instead. And I was like, oh, this is tough work. You learn a lot by watching diesel prices, hay prices. When hay is more expensive, when you have a horse or 27 horses that we have, you learn a lot of things.
That's right.
And I learned the most of it, the longest I could stay on our ranch at that point was 14 days, working consistently. But you know what, Carol? I was still uploading content even though I was on a ranch. I remember coming in the house 56 times one day, washing my hands, getting on the computer and doing something because I still was doing interviews. I wasn't getting to the hotels in Los Angeles, which was 23, minutes away, because we would take the 5 instead of the 405 or and the 101. It was not easy to do that, but you figure it out. So if I could do that when I was on a ranch, I can do it on different days. So you started to figure out what you can do, what would work, what won't work. And all the one thing I did know was no matter what, keep putting the content up on YouTube because we
That's right.
have, God, almost almost 2,700 videos that we have on our YouTube channel.
Incredible.
I do an average, Carol. Man, last year I did 352 interviews. I know that because I keep track of them. If you ever watch any of the interviews that I do one-on-ones, there's a hashtag next to them. That means whatever number that is, that's the interview that I'm on right now. I have 2 today. One before you, one after you. I got 2 tomorrow plus our live show. That's just Monday and Tuesday. Seem
Right.
consistent? I watch an average of 2.5 movies a day. Average. Most of the
That's
time,
incredible.
it could be 4 to 6. The most movies I've ever seen in one day was 9. I started exactly at 6 a.m. in the morning and I didn't finish until midnight. How do I know? Because I kept track and I put it in my calendar. If you know me, you know I write everything down in my calendars.
So
I
good.
keep track of everything that I do because there's going to be people, you didn't do this. Yes, I did. I can tell you the date and time when I did it. I timestamp everything.
And the other thing that you're saying here, and I bet the audience can relate to this, when you got started on your own, you said, this is what I'm going to do. And you said it earlier when you're
October 3rd of 2018.
unbelievable. And you started keeping track because you're thinking, look, I'm on my own. This is what I've done. Here's record of it. And then, of course, they can find the interviews and all the other things. But again, you started out, you were on your own. So you also say, which I so appreciate, where you have come from and where we are. Tell us about who the we is. Who are these people other than you? Because you do so much on your own, but you kind of have different teams that work with you at different places. Is that correct?
Yeah. I still do my own social media because I was told, hey, Brian, you've got to do your social media because how are you going to tell someone what to do if you don't know how to do it?
Right.
And that makes sense, right? If you're
Yeah.
owning a store, if you don't know how to run that store from sweeping up to handling the cash to going to, the order supplies, how are you going to tell someone else how to do it correctly? I
Right.
still do it till this day. On 16 other different sites, I put all of our content. Imagine that. Each time I put something up, it's got to go on another 16 different sites. 5 of them on Facebook, X, LinkedIn, 2 on Instagram, Stage 32, Easy Way. What's the other ones I got? Oh, now Crowds. and then we have one or two other that I'm not thinking of right now.
And you put that up. You create it and you put it up. That's incredible. I know
And
you
then I
work.
have a team, and then I have a publicist, Meredith Corning PR out of Arkansas. I chose her. I didn't want anybody from New York, and I didn't want anybody from Los Angeles because I wanted someone who I thought was equally as good, who worked as hard as those people in those big states. Just because she's in Arkansas doesn't mean she's not good. Oh,
a hun-
she's one of I put Meredith in the top 20, 25 publicists in the country. She's that good. That's why I
That's
chose her.
well, of course. And you work with Carroll a lot, and you work with. I mean, I've met a
Oh
few of
yeah,
the
Carol
women.
wanted to come on the show. Hey Brian, can I come on the show? Yeah, sure. Can I come on next week? Sure. Carol, do you want to just be a co-host? Yeah, I would love that. That's how it happened.
Yes, I mean, it's really, if you're willing to work, you love what you do, and you're willing to stay focused, consistent. I mean, like Brian has said, with whether it's a holiday or not, and to do the work, you will be able to continue whatever it is that you want to do as long as you feel like working, correct?
Let me ask you this, Carol. If you know it's 90 degrees out and you had your show to do, say it's on a Wednesday, but it's 90 degrees out and it's a holiday that day. Are you going to go to the beach if you're near the beach? Or are you going to do your show? Or are you going to just say, "Oh no, it's so nice out. I don't need to do my show today. I'm just going to go out and hang out with friends."
No,
No, you have to do that
I'm
show.
going to
It's
do the
about
show.
being consistent.
That's right. I'm going to do the show. And when I say except for I'm going to follow you and do a few, I'm going to figure out this live thing and talk to you about that on another occasion. However, I am so grateful for my team because since it's recorded, I'm going to do the show. I'm going to do as many as I can, have as many incredible conversations, and then work with them, of course. But I do believe with all my heart that teamwork makes the dream work. I believe it with all my heart.
Well, here's the other thing: you have the right team too. There's a lot of people that don't know how to pick a team.
That's true.
You ever run
That
into those women or men? I'm going to get married. Okay, who are you going to marry? This is my
right,
question. And why are you going to marry them? Because I'm
right,
65. I'll be 66 in September. You know what? I known since the sophomore year in my high school that I wasn't going to get married until after 32. When I got to California and I was in 1987, I was like, "Oh, there's no way I'm getting married. I'm having too much fun." No, and get tied down. And when I started interviewing these people who ran off to Vegas and got married within 9 days. I'm like, no way am I going to do that. That's one of
right.
the reasons why I've never been married, don't have any kids. I said, no way, because it's hard enough having a family, keeping that family, keeping that marriage, if you're married, together. And I've always said this, Carol, not everybody should get married, and not everybody should have kids, because not everybody knows how to do that.
Golly, and I'm not sure you know how until you've done it, and then you think, okay, this didn't work, and now I need to do this. I think that if we
Yeah,
think we
but
know,
Carol, do you know what certain people say sometimes? Oh,
go
you
ahead.
don't know what you're missing by having kids. I'm like, I do know what I'm missing by not having kids. I'm taking care of two kids now that aren't mine because
There
I
you
promised their grandmother, Brian, can you promise me on her deathbed, take care of my daughters? I did. What she didn't tell me and what I didn't know is that there were going to be two kids that came along with this from one of the crazy sisters. I didn't think about that one. And believe me, I like to think about a lot of scenarios. I totally missed that one.
Yeah, you said yes, and little did you know you were going to have four children. Turns out.
I had no idea I was gonna exactly. That's what they are. Because my friend Brandy, she's like a child. I kind of I go away. Hey, are you coming back for my birthday? Uh, okay.
That's right.
I had to come back. So I did. So you got to make these adjustments. And I understand when people, they're having marriage problems, they're having communication problems, they're having problems with the kids. I get it because I've been the person that helped them. Hey, why don't you guys go out and have a date night? Take 2 hours. I'll take care of your kids. I would be exercising with those kids. My job was to tire those kids out. So by the time their parents got home, they could just have a great time. Brian, what you do with our kids? They don't go to sleep this early. They were doing exercises. I had them doing things. I had them cleaning up. I said, hey, you want to meet so and so? I'll introduce you to so and so. But you know what? It comes with a price. You got to clean. You got to clean your room. You got to pick up all the stuff. All these toys and things your parents bought you. This is a lot of money. And this food that they bought you, you got to eat everything on your plate. There's no wasting food. And you got to learn how to recycle too.
I love this. Well, so turns out you do parent quite often.
Oh yeah, because I learned from my other friends. Just because you don't have to live it to learn it, Carol, do you?
Oh, no. As a matter of fact, in the word, it says, the wise man learns from other men's mistakes. The fool learns from their own. And
Absolutely. That's
I'm
why
a,
I say you don't have to live it to learn it.
oh my goodness. Unfortunately, in my younger days, now that I'm 110, I did
You
that
still
quite
are
often.
young. What are you talking about?
Thank you. I certainly am at heart. Thank you, Brian. Okay, so let's do this. I would love for you. Hang on, I made myself notes because audience, you can tell why I wanted to get Brian out here so y'all could say hello to him. So let's make sure. Okay, film festivals. You've got the Los Angeles Jewish Film Fest coming up, right? You've
I
got the
just did
Greek
it.
film.
I did that last week.
Oh, that was last week. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
no, I have the Greek Film Festival coming up next.
That's what's next. Okay. And then you're going to Nashville, you're going to Florida, you're going to Nevada. You've got movie reviews and
Arkansas. Yep.
you are,
Tennessee.
I love that the military spotlight is this month of May.
Yes, because this is the military month, but also all those other holidays coming up, Memorial Day, going right up until Labor Day,
That's
then
right.
you have Veterans Day, you have all these days come up. So for the rest of the year, we've already booked the shows for anything. So it'll be movie reviews and more military spotlight. And then the other one will be military voices powered by movie reviews and more. So we have permission to use those, which is good. Now, what I'm coming up with, I have to figure out what the flyer will look like because I don't know yet. I'm thinking about it.
What's gonna look like?
A flyer.
Oh,
Every
the flyer.
Tuesday, I put out a flyer who's on our show and things like that.
Very, very cool. Please, would you, Brian, leave the audience, leave me with some words of wisdom, you know, personally, professionally, from your heart, whatever you would like to share.
Just when you think you know the answer, I change the questions.
Oh, Brian, y'all, audience, can you believe it? Please send questions because Brian is so incredible. If you've got questions, we'll have all the places you can follow along, learn more about him, share. Everyone needs to follow, tap in. Brian is as you all have heard, you're a special human being. And I am so grateful that you took this time with us today.
Well, you're fun. Every time I get a chance to see you, I'm like, oh, this girl, I gotta go say hi to her. You our lives are short when you think about it. I've said this when I was in sophomore. A lot of things I knew in sophomore, I still don't know how I knew it or why I knew it. It's one of these things I've always said, I'm going to live to 130 years old and with good health. Good health, no aches or pains or anything like that. I put the stipulations on that.
Uh-huh.
So far I'm on track because September I'll be 66, but I'm in good health and all that stuff. However, life, as my southern mom would say, life, she would say this, Brian, I've had a lot of boulders thrown in the rock, in my path on my road. And I'm like, well, that's a good one. But what she was saying is like that, you've got to go around them, you got to blow them up, you got to go over, underneath, anything to achieve your goal, but don't screw people around, do your best
Mm,
not to do that. You have to do your
mm,
best to help people because you just never know when you're going to run back into those same people. Because
mm,
I have a lot of people I would take to events with me, and then they see all the things that I'm doing. You may fall out of touch with people move, people pass away, but they would always say, hey, I remember when you took me to this interview and I met so and so. I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot who came with me on this one because I wasn't supposed to do that. but I just knew people were going through things, and to get them out of their funk, I would say, who inspires you? Who would you like to meet, and why? If someone said Arnold Schwarzenegger and they went in the world of fitness, I'm like, oh, okay, well, Arnold's got a movie coming up. How would you like to meet him? I'm going to be sitting next to Arnold, and you're going to be sitting right next to me, either on the left or right hand side of me. And I know what the hotel is going to be. How would you like that? What? Do you make this happen? Because people don't hear these things. So I
Right.
started doing that for years. I wasn't supposed to. I had one journalist tell me one time, Brian, we didn't know what you were doing. We thought you were running the Underground Railroad, the people that you would bring with us. What I was doing, Carol, and I didn't know this, I was bringing those people who probably were suffering from ADHD, ADD, depression, anxiety, and everything else. They just didn't have the terminology for that because years later, they're diagnosed with that. But I didn't know that then. All I knew is to inspire people, give them the outlet. I was interviewing celebrities, so why not? Hey, what turns you on if you're a book reader? Wouldn't you want to meet Bob Proctor? When he
Oh,
was alive, or Sharon Lecter. That's if you're a book reader. Well, I was meeting these people. I didn't care about them at that point. I was more focused on Jean-Claude Van Damme, or Bruce Willis, or people like that, because I was getting direct guidance, and we would become friends as a non-actor, as a person on the low man on the totem pole. So you learn a lot of these things by watching them, interviewing them, and then watching what happens in the trades. And then when you see them again for an enclosed interview, hey, did this really happen to you? No, where did you see this? This is nonsense. None of that was going on. Charlie Sheen, for example. Charlie always used to give me the best interviews. He was always open on what he was going on. And if you see Charlie Sheen documentary on Netflix, 3-part series, he's always been open, always would told you what he was going through, whether he was on drugs or not. He is still friends with his exes. They would tell you, oh, we always loved Charlie. It was just he was going through stuff at the point. You learn a
you
lot.
know, it's incredible because what you're reminding everybody is whatever you're doing, you've been help other people along the way, give them hope, give them inspiration in whatever way you're able to from your own platform, your profession, what you love. And I appreciate that you do that, Brian. I'm a fan, you know that. And I cannot
Well,
wait.
you're a friend. You know that.
Well, and I am so honored to call you friend. I can't wait till we're together again very soon. I think it's next week. And then hopefully we'll be
No,
together.
no. It's tomorrow.
Oh, is it tomorrow? It's tomorrow. Oh my
Time
God.
goes quick.
19th. Oh, time. So I'm very excited.
See
And
how I am on it? I got to keep you guys organized with stuff.
okay, come on. Yeah, I love anything with that. And I just want to, first of all, thank you, Father. Thank you, audience. Thank you, Brian. And I'll see you tomorrow night. And audience, we'll talk soon. Hook 'em.
Thank you, young lady.
Oh my gosh, what a complete pleasure.